Hello everyone, thank you for joining me again and welcome to any new viewers. This is To The Point English with Ben. I'm Ben, and in this video I'm going to share some really useful tips on how to develop a certain superpower that will help you pass your English exam. Now in the modern world, in modern society, in which we're constantly being distracted by smartphones, social media, message notifications and so on, in order to be successful in pretty much any area of life, but of course we're talking about Cambridge English exams, it's really advantageous to develop this superpower. So what is this mysterious superpower I'm referring to? Well, it's simply focus. And I don't think it's really an exaggeration to call focus a superpower, because we are battling with apps and companies and influencers for our attention. They want to steal our attention. So we have to make a proactive effort to keep our attention and to be able to focus on what we're doing. And as a consequence of this situation, there's been a rise in recent years of productivity experts who recommend study techniques such as the Pomodoro technique, where you study for 25 minutes and then you rest for 5 minutes, and you study for 25 minutes, etc. Or the 52-17 rule, which is similar, but it's 52 minutes working or studying and 17 minutes resting. And I'm sure these techniques are effective, but there's a big problem when it comes to English exams, right? Because in the Cambridge English exams, for example, some of the papers are 90 minutes long, and you can't take a break every 25 or 52 minutes. So in your preparation, you need to get used to focusing on tasks for extended periods of time. So I'm going to share 7 tips now on how to develop this superpower of focus, specifically for English exams. So let's go straight to tip number 1, which maybe it's obvious, but I'm not sure if you're doing it. Turn off your phone. Or even better, turn off your phone and leave it in another room. Because we all know that temptation, right? When you have the device sitting on your desk, you just want to pick it up every few minutes just to have a look at what notifications you've got. And just that thought of being able to have a look, even if you don't touch your phone, that's going to distract you from what you're doing, what the task is in front of you. And I know what a lot of you will be saying. I need my phone, Ben. I need my phone to look up new vocabulary, the meanings of new vocabulary, or study the grammar. Well, the only thing I can say there is get a physical dictionary and a physical grammar book, because we know what happens, right? When you pick up your phone to look up a word, you'll see that you have a notification, maybe a WhatsApp message from a friend, which is a link to an Instagram or a TikTok video. So you have a quick look at that, and before you know it, 2 hours later, you've watched 20 videos of people falling off their skateboards and 40 videos of people dancing to the new Beyonce song, and you've wasted that time and you haven't been studying, which was your first objective of the day. Also, because in the exam itself, you won't have your phone with you, so you have to get used to being without your phone, doing tasks, focusing for extended periods of time without your phone with you. So you need to do it during the preparation process. Tip number 2 is to read for long periods of time. So hopefully you all read in English, and you all know that it's one of the best activities you can do to learn a language. So maybe you're doing it already, but when you do it, do you really focus on the article you're reading or the book you're reading for extended periods of time? Or do you sort of read a paragraph and then look at your phone or watch TV or look out the window or talk to someone or stroke your cat? Are you able to read without distractions for long periods of time? Because that's what you're going to have to do in the exam. The reading and use of English paper of the Cambridge English exams, for example, is 90 minutes, an hour and a half for the C1 Advanced and the C2 Proficiency. And if the first time you spend that much time focusing on text is in the exam, you're going to really struggle. So you're going to need to get used to reading for long periods just by dedicating some time during the day to reading without interruptions, without distractions. It doesn't have to be like 3 hours of reading, maybe just 20 minutes or half an hour, but really focusing on what you're reading without distractions. And that's similar to tip number 3, which is listen for long periods of time, particularly to podcasts and audiobooks on a range of different topics. You don't want to always be reading or listening to the same topics. You want to expose yourself to a lot of different types of vocabulary and accents, because that will really help you in the exam too. Now, I know many of you perhaps watch series and films in English, which is great, but in order to develop your focus for the listening paper of the exam, you should really just be exclusively listening for long periods of time. Again, not hours necessarily, but without interruptions, just focusing on what you're listening to and not thinking about other things at the same time, which is really what we do a lot in modern times. We're sort of multitasking. So be proactive, find some podcasts on different topics and spend some time listening to them without distractions, without interruptions. And the next tip is really specific to exam preparation, and it's to do mock tests under exam conditions. And I've put exam conditions in inverted commas there because I know it's pretty much impossible to simulate or recreate exam conditions at home. But what I'm really referring to is timed. So do the mock tests within the time that is specified in the exams, using your time management strategy, which hopefully you've developed. So if you're practicing the reading and use of English part, set aside an hour and a half and just dedicate that time to doing all the parts of the exam at some time before you take your real exam. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of your preparation process. At first you want to get to know all the different parts and spend some time on each part. But at some point you want to do the whole paper at least under exam conditions. The same with the writing paper, where you have two tasks. You have to write two compositions. So spend an hour and a half writing two compositions without distractions, without interruptions, just focusing on those tasks. And that's the same with a listening paper, and if possible try to do it with a speaking paper with a friend or a family member. And you know what would really be great would be to do the whole exam, so the whole 4 hours. It's a very long exam, more or less under exam conditions. I know that's very difficult, but if you have the opportunity you'll find it very advantageous. So those 4 tips are all related to the preparation process, right, before you take the exam. These next 2 tips are for when you're actually sitting the exam, on the day of the exam, what you can do to help yourself focus during the exam. And the first one is to make the most of the breaks. So in the Cambridge English exams, for example, you will get short breaks, should be about 15 minutes, more or less, between each paper. So between the reading and use of English and the writing, you should get about 15 minutes, and between the writing and the listening, another 15 minutes. The speaking paper, it depends when your test is. It may be hours, or it may be just a few minutes too. But really, it's really important to take full advantage of that time. Don't spend those minutes analyzing what you have done in the last task, in the last part of or paper of the exam. You can't do anything about that. That's gone. Just forget what you've done well, what you've done wrong, what mistakes you think you made. You need to save your energy for the next paper. So I would just recommend you go and sit in a corner or stand in a corner and close your eyes maybe, and just try to rest as well as possible so you're ready for the next paper and you can give 100% of your focus. Also, I recommend you drink water. I mean, you can have water on your table during the exam, but you may forget to drink when you're focusing, or you may just not have time. So drink water, maybe eat something like chocolate or nuts or something which can give you energy and help you to focus. And another tip for during the exam, which may seem very basic, but I think it helps. I think it really helps just to keep reminding yourself to focus, especially in the listening paper. Now, of course, you have to stay focused through all of the exam, but if you get distracted for a couple of seconds when you're reading an article, it's not a disaster, because you can just go back and read that sentence or paragraph again. And it's the same with the writing paper. I mean, you don't want to get distracted, you want to be focused, but if it's just a few seconds, you can rewrite the sentence that you feel you may have made a mistake in and continue. But in the listening paper, if you are distracted just for half a second, it could make a big difference. You could get lost completely, and you may not be able to find the place in the audio where the question is. So it's really important just to keep reminding yourself, focus, focus, focus. Make it like a mantra in your head. Focus, focus, all through the exam. Because we're humans, we're human beings, we have these monkey minds. which are always wondering and thinking about strange things, right? Maybe you suddenly start thinking about the football, or what you're going to have for dinner, or what your friend said to you the previous day. Break out of that and just remind yourself to focus. And the last tip, this is a more general tip, but it's really important, and it's simply be prepared. Now, of course, there are many reasons why you should be prepared. Many obvious reasons that I've spoken about in other videos and in my online preparation courses. I go into a lot of details about that. In fact, the courses are designed for you to be prepared. But when it comes to focus, the advantages of being prepared are that you don't have to worry so much about what you have to do, about the instructions for each part of the exam. If you prepare well and you know exactly what you have to do and the strategy you're going to use, then it's going to help you to focus on the really important stuff, which is answering the questions correctly or doing the task as well as possible. Now, some of the tasks are a little bit complicated and confusing, so if you're not prepared, and believe it or not, many people take these exams without any preparation, but if you're not prepared, you're going to have to really focus and pay attention to the instructions and then think about how you're going to approach the task. But if you're prepared, you don't need to worry about any of that. It's going to be pretty much automatic, and you can just do the task and spend all of your energy and all of your focus on just doing the task as well as possible. So be prepared. Okay, so now you're ready to develop your new superpower for passing English exams. Do you have any extra tips for focus? Share them in the comments, and I'll see you very soon for another video.